Hello, hello.
Hello. You got to say 3.
You get to do the third one.
Oh, thank you. The next one, it'll be hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, that was really bad. Never mind.
I wish you guys could have seen that she was pointing at me with her thumb for some reason.
I don't know. Or maybe that was my finger and they're just so stubby that it looked like it.
That's true. Fun fact about Jamie. Stubbiest fingers I've ever seen.
I got my dad's hands.
You too.
And feet. We won't talk about that.
Anyway, how are you, James?
Me and my feet are good, thank you. How are you?
Didn't ask about your feet.
Do you want to ask?
Good.
They're probably
No.
offended. Okay. Well, I have 2 of them, so.
Are you sure?
As of right now, there's 2, yeah. Subject to change in the future, I don't know.
Yeah, we won't speak of past or future. Who knows?
How are your feet?
Connor's
gonna love this episode.
I'm not gonna talk about them for free.
Oh, okay. You heard her, folks. Start paying.
There you go. But I, as the person attached to the feet.
Care.
Okay, well.
I kid.
This is gonna be a great episode.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. What's going on?
You know.
Work? School?
Mm-hmm.
They're going?
I would love to be able to go into more detail.
But you're stalker.
Yeah.
Stalkers? Question?
Murderer.
You're a murderer.
You're a murderer. Yeah, no. All things are well.
I'm Kate,
And I'm Jane, and this is Creeps and Coffee.
a show where we talk about the dark parts of the world around us
Cryptids, conspiracies, things that go bump in the night.
and the crimes behind the scariest creatures of all, humans.
Join us as we take a look at the stories sure to give you the creeps.
Pull up a seat, grab a coffee,
And let's have a chat. Should I start rapping now?
Yes.
No, I'm embarrassed. Because I'm not good. You rap.
I'm not the one that said I was gonna rap.
Oi, mate, pass the liquor. It's Jack the Ripper. Jack the...
So, Jamie's really excited for this episode.
And that is all I'm gonna do. I know the rest of it, but I'm embarrassed now.
So, if you were not privy to epic rap battles of history as a youngin',
Battles of history.
yep, just like that. What you may have missed there is a fantastic YouTube video where the subject of today's episode does a rap battle against,
Hannibal Lecter.
you know.
Just basics.
So,
yeah.
just typical things. So we are not going to continue doing the rap battle aspect, but we are going to talk about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that's on me. Sorry, guys, I can't rap.
Thank God. It just makes it more enjoyable. But I think this episode is an interesting one because I think a lot of people, Jamie and I were just talking about this, I think a lot of people have heard the name and heard like a general backstory, I guess.
Yeah.
And think that they have a decent idea of like what the Jack the Ripper story really is.
But you don't.
But there's so much more to it that obviously you wouldn't know unless you looked into it.
Like, Caitlin just told me something about this that I didn't even know. And I have 5 pages of information in front of me, so... You're a fountain of knowledge.
And yeah, I was going to say, and I have a brain full of useless knowledge.
And a photographic memory.
comes in handy, not for school, but for random facts. You got it.
I have the opposite of, like, a photographic memory.
You have no memory.
Like, I look at things and then it gets erased from existence.
It's true.
Not even in my brain, but in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it has not happened.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's why the apocalypse hasn't happened yet. Not until I will it to be.
Because you keep forgetting about it.
It's my superpower. You're welcome.
Oh god, we're all doomed.
So Jack the Ripper murders.
Yes. So...
shall I give a brief blurb and then you can, like, nuance it? And,
please.
and
oh my
initially,
god.
Okay.
Oh, you were doing so well. Initialate. What an interesting word
It went
choice.
from nuance to
yeah, I was like, wow.
I think I caught myself off guard and it...
and you got flustered.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah, so...
give us.
Jack the Ripper started killing people in 1888 in the East End of London, and this is also known as the Whitechapel murders, and he is also known as the Whitechapel murderer. But it was actually, for as notorious as he was, it was only a small section of the community that it affected. But as we will explain later on in the episode, there is a reason why it had such a big impact.
Yeah, so like Jamie said, Jack the Ripper was in the Whitechapel area in the East End of London in 1888. And the reason we know Jack the Ripper is because all of these murders were notoriously violent. So I'll give a little bit of a warning in advance. Jack the Ripper was in the Whitechapel region in the East End of London in 1888, and
London, babe.
what was I saying? Oh,
The
so because
murders
of
were so brutal.
Because of the brutality of the murders. Obviously, we'll talk about them a little bit because that's part of the story, but I don't want to go into too much detail because I know it can be a lot in terms of gore and intensity.
Fair.
Especially for 1888. I feel like when you picture that time period, you think of...
They
like,
thought showing ankles was scandalous.
Exactly. You think of the simplicity of the time and all of these, like, minute things that we
People
would never
dying
consider.
From a flu.
Yeah, like it was never considered a scandalous time. Like, you don't think of it and think like, oh my god. But I think that's part of the reason why these murders were so shocking and so rattling to the community. Because you have to remember, too, that London in 1888 was not the London that we think of now. Yeah. It wasn't like... It was busy, but it wasn't by any means like modern-day London in terms of population and popularity. Yeah, so I think that's a big reason why these murders were so shocking at the time, because obviously murder happened, but it was very rarely to the intensity that these murders were.
Yeah.
So I think one of the other reasons that this becomes such a major story is that this person was never caught. We have absolutely no idea who this person could have been. There's lots of speculation, but without proper DNA testing, without actual knowledge of if any evidence we do have left comes from the crime, we have no idea how to actually link things together. So we can speculate, but we will never fully know who this person was, which is wild to think. Like, I feel like with notorious killers today, we kind of still have that hope of like, okay, people from the 50s, 60s, 70s might still be connected through like the ancestry data and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But we don't really have that option for murders from 1888.
Not really.
No, we don't have like proper techniques that we would follow today that were happening at the crime. But we'll get into that stuff. Okay, so when we think about like a history of Jack the Ripper, there's a lot of back and forth about the actual time frame and the actual, I guess, what's the word I want to use? The actual vast number of suspects, or not suspects, oh my god, victims? I can't talk today. Yeah. The actual vast number of victims that there might be. So when you think about the Whitechapel murders, there's certain documents that have about 11 names on it, certain documents that have more, but it's generally believed, people consider it canonically, that there's five victims of Jack the Ripper that can be tied just based on MO, based on the brutality that matches up, unfortunately. So
there could have been more.
There could have been more. There could have been less. It very well could have been that some of these women were unfortunately just murdered by somebody else who was trying to...
This was also the most crime-ridden, poor area of London at the time, right? Mm-hmm. So, obviously, there's a lot of crime happening. Somebody's gonna get it, unfortunately.
Exactly. So, and that's kind of where I want to start with this. So, if you think about London's East End at this point, it's not the most populous of areas with upper class people. It was either like people either really, really loved it and felt comfortable there, or they thought it was disgusting and an area of town that they would want to stay away from. It was a place where a lot of skilled immigrants, a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Russians would come to start their businesses because it was a lower income place. They could buy places for cheaper.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, with that being lower income, it also came with a lot of violence and crime. Yeah. And one of the biggest draws to this area of London at the time was prostitution. So prostitution is something that I always kind of enjoy talking about, which is weird to say. But I think people forget that it's considered the oldest career in the world. Something that has existed throughout all of history.
Shout out to sex workers. Y'all deal with a lot of stuff.
Well, exactly. There's different variations of what sex work looks like. For the most part, it's not illegal. Yeah. It's illegal to solicit a prostitute. It's illegal to pay money for sex. Mm-hmm. But it's not illegal to prostitute yourself, if that makes sense.
Which is a weird way to go about it.
It is. But it was the same sort of idea in the 1800s, where it was only illegal if it caused a public disturbance. So there were a lot of places like brothels, a lot of places like, I don't know what you would call them, like sex houses, where it would be these low-rent houses that were basically turned into apartments, where people could come and rent a girl for the night, for an hour, whatever the case may be. It was a lucrative business. It still is. Look at things like OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a big deal. But the negative part of that is that because it's more of a riskier career, especially at that point, when a prostitute was murdered or kidnapped or abused, it wasn't considered a problem. They were considered the lower end of society, more to be used like objects.
And they don't deserve that.
No, absolutely
not. They're humans.
Even though it's not incredibly different today, in 1888, the death of what you would call a working girl was rarely news. It wasn't anything that people were disturbed about. They were tossed aside like garbage. They were attacked often, and unfortunately, a lot of times they would die and nobody would know. Nobody would go looking for them. Nobody would claim the bodies. They would just assume that they were gone. So with that being said, there were, unfortunately, a fair number of murders of prostitutes at that time. So there's a couple that happened before the general time period of Jack the Ripper that could potentially be linked to him. It could be the start of things. There were a couple murders that were a little bit more brutal than, I guess, normal.
Yeah.
As if there's a normal level of brutality for a murder. But they're not the same in the sense of the other 5 that seem to tie together really well.
Yeah.
So we can't say anything like that for sure. But what we can say is from, I'd say, August, September, especially, of 1888, Whitechapel was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were finally taking notice of these murders. So, the person who is generally considered to be the first victim of Jack the Ripper was a woman named Martha Tabram. So Martha Tabram's body was found on August 7th, 1888. It was found in George Yard, which is just off of Whitechapel High Street. I'm not sure if that's still what it would be called. Mm-hmm. She was also known as Martha Turner. We're not really sure what her actual name was, if that makes sense. So Martha Tabram, and then Mary Nichols, mm-hmm. Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Kelly. So Martha Tabram is slightly before what you would consider the canonical 5. But her murder was so brutal that this is generally considered to be his first attempt at it. I don't know how to say it elegantly. She wasn't disemboweled like the others would eventually be, but there was evidence that the killer had targeted her throat, that there were targets on her abdomen, as if he had started to do something but hesitated, or as if he had planned to do something but got caught, whatever the case may be. So this is sort of generally believed to be his entry into what he would eventually do.
Yeah.
So there's, again, no proof tying him to this, but there's a good chance, if you ask me.
Definitely fits the description.
Absolutely. It's kind of a big deal. It was the first one that they really took notice of.
And we're like, hey, this is a lot.
So, from that point on, a couple weeks later, so that was August 7th of 1888. A couple weeks later, on the 31st of August, 1888, they find the body of Mary Nichols, who is the first name that most people will recognize when it comes to Jack the Ripper. So this would be where we get the clear indication of who Jack the Ripper was. So he slit her throat, he disemboweled her. Again, won't go into significant detail with that because you can imagine the brutality of it just from that general description. She didn't really stand a chance. You can't really fight too much.
Yeah.
So she was 42 years old. She was found in...
I didn't know she was 42.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just picturing a mother now getting murdered.
Yeah. So, she was found in Bucks Row, which I believe is now called Derwald Street. So she was nearly decapitated. So it was very intense. Obviously. So from this is where they connected this to the murder of Martha Tabram. because they thought there might have been some sort of escalation. So it was clear to them at that point that there was something happening, something that was escalating, and a person who was going to be a problem for the London police.
Boy, was he ever.
So in early September of 1888, a man named Frederick Aberline became inspector. He had spent about 14 years as a detective in this area. So he was brought back in, even though he had gotten a promotion and he was moved out of the general area. He was brought back in to take charge because they were like, oh God, we need somebody who knows. So he would receive a lot of criticism and ridicule, but not nearly as much as other officers because people respected him and saw him as a driving force in this investigation. So it was a really big deal. So it was around this time that they started interviewing prostitutes, seeing if anyone would have seen anything, if anyone would have figured out what was going on. And a lot of the women who were working in this area came up with a description of a possible subject. And they said there was a man...
A man. Sorry.
Exactly.
That's all I needed to hear.
They said there was a man who would frequent the prostitution areas, I guess, who they had nicknamed Leather Apron.
Ugh.
Because... for lack of creativity, he often wore a leather apron. So they were like, that's that guy.
Also,
very weird.
Kind of a red flag going
very
to
weird.
A brothel in something that you would see like a butcher wearing.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So the prostitutes also said that Leather Apron was running an extortion ring. So he was really overpowering these women, and apparently he was threatening to rip them open if they didn't give him their money.
Incel.
The unfortunate part of this, like, on a positive note, they had sort of a description of a potential suspect. They had a general idea of who they could look out for, that sort of thing. On the unfortunate end of things, when the press found out, they began to release information saying that this man had a Hebrew appearance, which the prostitutes never really said. The newspapers just kind of took a few descriptions and threw that out there.
Creative liberties.
Exactly. And with this being, like I said before, with this being a lower income area where a lot of immigrants were able to come in, it led to a lot of anti-Semitism in the area, which was already prone to happen, but this made it even worse. So that kind of sets the scene for what would happen on the 8th of September in 1888, where another body was found. So less than a mile away from Bucks Row, where Mary Nichols had been found. I think it was called, So in the backyard of a place on Hanbury Street, they found the body of Annie Chapman. So Annie Chapman was a 47-year-old sex worker. She had a few of her possessions next to her body, in the same sense of Mary Nichols and what was attempted to happen with Martha. Her head was almost severed. She was disemboweled. But this time, things got more intense.
Yeah.
The PG version is that the killer removed her womb. The not-so-PG version is that sections of skin had been cut off of her stomach and laid onto her left shoulder and right shoulder. Kind of like weird skin shoulder pads. And part of the vagina and bladder had also been carved out.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, so,
For why?
Great question. No one knows. What turned this into a case that even more so piqued the interest of the police, aside from the obvious idea that there was a crazy person around, was the fact that a freshly washed leather apron was found close to her body. Unfortunately, again, the press really ran with this. Anti-Semitism turned into, we can say, racial unrest. There was a lot of problems going on in the area. But luckily, I guess, if you can find a positive in the situation, the dealings with the press and the police for this racial unrest meant that no murders took place for a few weeks. So, there you go. At this point, they found a man who they believed was the leather apron, a man named John Pizer. He was arrested, and unfortunately, he was able to provide very solid alibis about where he was during all of the murders, and he was publicly cleared of any involvement in the crimes. So he's not really considered to be a Jack the Ripper suspect. Unfortunately.
Wait, which name did you say?
John Pizer.
Okay.
So he's mentioned every once in a while, but
it's not really one of the suspects I have listed. So
yeah, he's not really
doesn't count.
There's like not much to it. At this point, the police surgeon, like the person who would have conducted the autopsies and had the unfortunate pleasure of looking at these bodies up close, said that the skill and the speed that would be required to remove Annie Chapman's womb with the precision that he did, the murderer had to possess some level of anatomical knowledge. So this could mean he was a surgeon. This could mean he was a doctor. This could mean he was a butcher. So there was
trusted people.
Yeah. So there was a bit of question when it came to this, because there was it's kind of a weird connection, but apparently there was a sub-curator that worked at one of London's medical schools who had approached someone with information about an American doctor who had offered £20 for each womb that he could be provided with.
Ooh.
At this point, you also have to think about the medical schools. They wouldn't have access to a lot of cadavers. They wouldn't have access to a lot of actual things to study with. So people did a lot of sketchy things to study anatomy, unfortunately. So this added a lot of speculation to the case. The medical profession at the university especially, or at the medical school especially, were very quick to deny it and try to disprove it as much as possible. But it's an idea that's really stuck with the case. So the police were very dedicated to catching this person now that they knew that he could be someone with medical knowledge who would really be able to cause some damage. Obviously, he had caused a lot of damage, but there was a lot going on. So on the 28th of September, the Central News Agency received a letter signed Jack the Ripper. And this letter was threatening more murders. So it's widely believed that this was someone who was trying to mess with the police, which is unfortunate because why would you joke about this? But there's a lot of messed up people out there.
Is this almost like the Zodiac killer?
Kind of.
Okay.
But in the way that the Zodiac had a lot of people sending in fake letters, this is believed to be one of those fake letters. But that being said, that letter is the reason that we have the name Jack the Ripper. Because news outlets were like, that's kind of cool, actually. That kind of suits it. Which is unfortunate, because that's...
Meanwhile, Jack's over here like, my name is Ronald.
What the fuck? I didn't choose that. But from that point on, letters would become a big way of communication for this person who was supposedly Jack the Ripper. So that was 28th of September. On the 30th of September, this so-called Ripper returned and killed 2 women in less than an hour. So he was upping his game. So the first victim was a woman named Elizabeth Stride. She was also a sex worker, unfortunately. She was found by a man who was turning his pony and cart into a yard just around 1 o'clock in the morning, and unfortunately found her body. Her throat was cut quite intensely, but the rest of her body hadn't been mutilated. So there was no disembowelment, there was no actual signature, like other signatures of this murderer. But police believe that it's because the man was coming down with his pony and cart and interrupted the murder.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
So, because they think this murder was interrupted, that's why they also think that the second murder happened so quickly after. Like, he needed to get something out. So the second victim was a woman named Catherine Eddowes. So that was at about 1:45 a.m. So Elizabeth's body was found at 1 a.m. At 1:45, Catherine's body was found. So Catherine was 43 years old, and she was found just a few minutes away from where Catherine's body was, or from where Elizabeth's body was.
Yep, those seem connected.
So she had been ripped open. It got even more intense, if possible. So her womb was also taken. Her throat was also cut. Both of her eyelids had been cut, and part of her nose and her right ear were cut off. The killer also took her left kidney and threw her intestines over her shoulders again. So, very intense.
Yeah, I'm not hungry anymore.
No, that's completely fair. So, it got people talking. There ended up being a trail of blood that went from her body to a nearby doorway. And on this doorway, at this doorway, they came across a piece of Catherine's apron. And in chalk on the wall above the apron, there was a message that said, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." We don't really know what that means. We don't know. But,
Okay.
It was questionable. So after that, the Central News Agency received another letter. This time, they believed it was from the actual Ripper. So there's the infamous Dear Boss letter. There's a couple of letters that Jamie can talk about a little bit, but they were believed to actually be communications from whoever this person was, because he had intimate knowledge of the crimes. And this was one of those letters. So in this letter, he said he was sorry he hadn't been able to send the ears to the police because he had only partially severed Catherine's ear. Which is so messed up. It wouldn't be until the 9th of November that the Ripper would pop up again. So Mary Kelly was the last body that can be connected to the Ripper.
Confirmed.
And she was the youngest. She was 25. She was found, unlike the others, not on the street or in a yard. She was found in her room at Miller's Court, which was just off of Dorset Street, which I believe is now called Duval Street. Mary was lying on the bed, and she was found by her rent collector, which I'm guessing is an old-timey term for a landlord.
Yeah.
And he's famously quoted as saying, "I shall be haunted by this for the rest of my life." So they found her with, just like the others, her throat cut, all that stuff. Her nose and breast had been cut off and thrown on a table. Her insides had been draped over a picture frame.
And you guys,
She was
I don't want to cut you off, but I'm just going to say, this is Caitlin watering it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is brutal already.
She was partially skinned, and her heart was missing. So, you know, normal, average, everyday
Why so
thing.
extra, though?
It's clearly a person, whoever it was, it's a person with a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
Which is the scary part, because you can't imagine feeling the type of rage that would lead to something like that. And then all of a sudden, no more. So there would be more hoax letters. There would be a lot of people trying to gain some sort of, some sort of humor from it. And it almost caused the investigation to shut down completely because there was so much information coming in that was just distracting police, taking time away from them.
Because they have to read all of it.
Exactly. They have to follow through on every potential lead. There were a lot of suspects that had no connection. Then they got a questionable letter. So it's never really proven, but a lot of people call this the from hell letter. So this letter starts off, "From hell. Mr. Lusk," who was the investigator. "Sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman. Preserved it for you. The other piece I fried and ate.
Oh.
It was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out, if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch Me When You Can."
And do we believe that one is real?
We do, because he sent the kidney.
Like, with it?
It was preserved in wine. And obviously, like we said, we don't have DNA testing to fully confirm, but it was a left kidney,
Had to do it.
which is the same as, it was in a box. So it's the same as what would have been taken from the body of Catherine
I
Eddowes.
didn't know that freak was a cannibal also.
There is a potential, and this was the consensus among doctors, that it was just a sick prank from a medical student who had found a kidney and sent it. However, they have always considered this to be a good chance that it was
That's not even funny.
something connected. No, that's, like, I can't even imagine what would drive you to do something like that.
Hey, Caitlin, after this, do you feel like interfering with a police investigation?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds
4
super
o'clock?
fun. I think, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Like, what?
I cannot imagine. So, with all of these potential hoaxes, with these letters, with all of this information that they have but also don't have because they can't corroborate any of it, we're kind of at a standstill. And that is unfortunately where this case has been for
200 years?
just about, yeah. Like 100 and... I
I'm
can't do
not
math.
gonna-
Almost 200 years. No. Over 100. So, that's kind of where we are. And I think a lot of the intrigue comes from all of the misdirections and all of the unknown. Because we don't have a reason why. And I think that's the most compelling thing about this is we don't we don't need to know who, because it's not like we can put them away at this point. We don't need to know if all of these murders are connected. People just want to know why. Why would you do this to women who... no one deserves that, but women who had done nothing.
Was he super
We're just trying to make a living.
Like, got rejected by women?
Probably.
Like...
But that's sort of where we end off with Jack the Ripper. Would you like to talk about suspects?
Well, shall I add a couple different things also?
Please do.
I also just wanted to mention how the general public was like the deciding factor on him not getting caught, essentially, because he managed to bring such an awareness and exposure to this poor part of the city. And if everyone from the wealthier sections saw this happen, checked the news articles, and actually wanted to help, I can guarantee that would have had a different outcome. If everyone had worked together to help the people in the community, he probably would have been caught. But because of racism, sexism, just people hating women and sex workers, and just being selfish and not caring, like, shocker, the rich people don't care about the poor people. Like, yeah, he got away with it, and...
It's disgusting.
But, like, that's something that, like, I love feeling like I'm part of communities. I love feeling like a valued member of communities. And that just feels so awful. Like, people didn't care. They were making jokes of this investigation. And that just, I don't know. As, like, a woman, that hurts.
Well, that's the thing. You think, like, it was 1888. It was so long ago. It was a different time. Yeah.
Your great-great-great-grandma could be there. Like,
but this stuff still happens.
Yeah.
This is still how cases like this are treated, where people don't look at it as a person. They look at it as someone in a low-income area surrounded by potentially people of color, which is going to add to the racial bias. And they just think, like, oh, this doesn't affect me. It's not my area. It's not my people. But it is.
And people feel like that too. Like, a lot of the times, like, when homeless people die, people do not care.
Exactly. I just, like I said before, I don't see, not even to the level of committing a murder, I don't see how you can be that disheartened and that oblivious and angry about people who are different than you that you wouldn't care about something like this.
Like, I don't even like hurting animals. I don't like when
Jamie
people
can't even
kill
kill
animals.
bugs.
It makes me cry when I kill bugs. I would never kill a person.
I wish she was exaggerating about that, but she's not.
Yeah, ask any of my previous roommates. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, off of my soapbox there, I guess. I didn't even realize I'd hopped on.
It's always how it works.
I don't have too much about suspects, but I just have a few names. Do you have a lot about suspects?
Not too much.
I just wanted to name a few.
Because the thing with suspects, and we could probably do a whole episode on potential suspects, but the thing is, we don't know. We don't have any genuine information. We don't have any genuine alibis. There's no proof connecting any of these people. It's all speculation. So what we'll probably do is we'll link some sources with more information about the suspects, and you guys can come to your own conclusions about things. But we'll talk about our favorite theories, I guess.
Yeah. I just have a few names to spout off as actual suspects, and then people who were considered suspects, but for no rhyme or reason. So we had, I don't know how to say any of these, Aaron Kaminsky, Thomas Cutbush, and Montague John Pruitt, question mark, as actual suspects. Meanwhile, people said the Freemasons were responsible.
Our favorite guys.
And I'm gonna talk for the Freemasons here and say, I don't think they did.
As someone who would like to be a Freemason one day, I will put my foot down.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
no.
They don't claim this.
No.
As well as Prince Albert Edward Victor. Usually royalty doesn't like to get their hands dirty.
Exactly.
If they're gonna do it, they're gonna send somebody else to do it.
They can be real brats.
Yeah. But they don't often brutally rip out organs in streets.
As far as we know.
That's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, just a guess.
And another good old BS suspect is the infamous Lewis Carroll, who you may recognize as the author of Alice in Wonderland. And I'm also going to take a little stab at this and say I don't think he did it either.
Look, he was a weird guy, but murderer...
I mean, have you read the Jabberwocky poem? 'Twas brillig and the slope Tibbs did gyre, or whatever it is.
You know what? I'll give you that. I will give you that.
However, I don't think that he is Jack the Ripper.
What if we look through the looking glass?
He is Jack the Ripper. But, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential.
But, like, at that point, they really didn't have any official leads besides that one guy, but then they were like, oh, wait, you've got alleyways.
Yeah. So I think... Did you have anything else to say?
Not really.
Sorry. So I think with people like Jamie mentioned, Montague John Druitt. So the reason people considered him was because he was deemed to be sexually insane. He...
Caitlin, are you guys related?
He was a Whitechapel...
Just kidding.
Wow. So he lived... I'm going to move right past that. He lived in the general area. He was a Whitechapel local. He was also seen in the Whitechapel area around the time of the murders.
So was 90% of that population.
Well, exactly. Unfortunately, on November 9th, so about 7 weeks after the murder of Mary Jane Kelly, his body was found floating in the Thames.
Hey.
So they believed it was a suicide, and that he had been at the bottom of the river for several weeks, which would have been around the time of Mary Kelly's murder. So some people think that he was just so sexually insane, as they quoted, that he couldn't handle his desires and had to murder, and then couldn't live with himself, so he drowned. Other than him being into weird sex, there's not really any other...
So nowadays we just call that being kinky.
Exactly. You also mentioned Aaron Kosminski. So he was a Polish barber, and he was...
The demon barber of Fleet Street?
He was not the demon barber of Fleet Street.
That's a whole other episode.
Close. It is. So a lot of the high-ranking officers thought that he could potentially be the murderer. So he was born sometime between 1864 and 65 in Russia. He moved to London in the early 1880s, and he was Jewish. So of course, the police were like,
guilty.
He did it. He was a hairdresser in Whitechapel during the time of the murders. Apparently, he had a very strong hatred for women and had, quote, homicidal tendencies, which I feel like should not be glossed over.
It's a little bit of a red flag.
Slightly.
Yeah.
They thought that because he had experience with sharp tools for hairdressing, that could have been what was used. So he was sent to an asylum in 1889 and died there not long after. So they never really got to interview him.
Everybody's dropping like flies here.
That's the 1800s.
Well, yeah.
What were the other names you mentioned?
Something Montague Druitt.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Oh. I don't know. I deleted it. Let me check.
That's okay.
Aaron Montague, Thomas Cutbush.
So Thomas Cutbush was another name that Jamie mentioned. He was a name that was put forward around the time of the murders, but nothing really came of it because they sort of ran out of evidence.
He also died like a couple years later, 1903.
Yeah. So there's no sort of big things that draw him as Jack the Ripper. But there's a lot of files about him that sort of give insight into him maybe not being
Good person.
a great person. He was at Broadmoor Asylum, so he was a very cutthroat person, but not really.
Can I describe some stuff I just found?
Please do.
So apparently he was very eccentric and aggressive. He contracted syphilis from prostitutes in 1888. He was fired almost immediately from his first job because of serious behavioral problems. And he only lasted 4 days in that asylum because he managed to escape by jumping over the walls.
Yes.
He was also convicted of stabbing 2 women in the buttocks on 2 different occasions in the middle of a public road in 1891. So he was psychotic, but he was probably not Jack the Ripper.
Yes. And that's the thing with a lot of these people. They have a lot of suspects on the list who have medical backgrounds. A lot of suspects who don't have medical backgrounds but had access to sharp tools.
Yeah.
Suspects who didn't have medical backgrounds or access to sharp tools but just hated women, which was like every man in 1888. So there's not a lot to go off of. What I will say, and what we can kind of finish up on, is my favorite theory.
I also have more. So.
Oh, go for it.
No, you go first.
Oh, no. So my favorite theory is that it wasn't a man at all. So there's a big theory that Jack the Ripper may have been a woman by the name of Mary Percy.
Yes.
So in 1890, Mary Percy was convicted and hanged for the murder of her lover's wife and child. And when she did that, she used a method very similar to the Rippers.
Oh.
So a big theory about how she could have gotten so close to the women without causing a scene, how this person could have, especially in the case of Mary Kelly, been invited into the home. They think that there could have been a relationship, whether that be like a romantic relationship or just like a connection between these women and Mary Percy. So women, especially women who are in those more vulnerable states, are more likely to trust another woman. They're more likely to allow for a woman to get close to them, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's a potential that she could have worked as a midwife and thus had knowledge of anatomy and stuff in that sense.
Okay.
But
why?
That's the only thing we don't know. Because, like we said, she was hanged in 1890, so it was never really connected. Some people consider her to be Jill the Ripper, which I think is equal parts funny and fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's far-fetched, as all of the suspects are.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to look at the psychology behind it, of why they would be so comfortable and allow someone to get that close to them, and why there wouldn't be signs of fighting back and signs of whatever the case may be. So,
I mean, there were also over 100 people named as suspects, so
exactly,
there
this is what I mean.
been at least 1 or 2 women on that list, if not more.
There was not, but
not. I don't know how to say this. I'm not promoting Jack the Ripper,
no.
but women are powerful and underestimated.
Fucked up. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a few more things, if that's cool.
Go for it. I got all my stuff.
You got everything out of your system?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I talked so much.
I love it though. Yeah, so unfortunately, as we've already expressed, the man Jack the Ripper, the person Jack the Ripper, was never caught, and that was really because of a lack of progress. And I think that, as we've mentioned, people themselves hindered the investigation by sending so much mail, playing pranks, and just generally not trying to help the police. But also, this was probably one of the first cases in human history where they were able to watch in real time the investigation unfold. Everybody got to see all of the news updates each time that the press released a statement, which is not like it is today. We can go on TikTok or Twitter and find out what's happening with true crime cases minute by minute. Mm-hmm. That was not the case back then, so it was almost like that was one of the first big things for true crime junkies, unfortunately, that were like, oh, like this is happening right now. Like this is this, and it could be this person.
Absolutely.
And from a distance, go crazy. But when you're affecting the actual investigation, maybe take a step back from that.
I agree.
I also wanted to add a couple more general tidbits of why didn't the police catch him? So as we know, the human factor, because thanks jerks, thanks rich people, and also the fact that they had not created like forensic science yet. They couldn't do fingerprints. They couldn't test blood or DNA. I don't even think that they could check and see, like, during an autopsy if someone was drugged or not, could they? In 1888?
They could, kind of.
They could be like, something's there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but something's...
They could test for, like, poisons. They could test for certain things. But there wasn't, like, general testing where you could just see what was in someone's system.
Yeah.
It was like you had to know what you were looking for. And if you didn't know, which why would you?
Yeah.
Like, you were screwed.
And, like, people who were detectives and stuff weren't trained the way they are now.
No.
They didn't go to school for criminology for 4 to 8 years. They didn't get a degree. They were just like, I'm good at solving things. Let me in the police force. And the police were like, you're really smart. You're in. Obviously, that's not exactly how it works, but that's what it seems like.
But not far off.
And unfortunately, it was also just the general layout of the land. The poorest section was also the most labyrinth-like, as it's been described.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of small passages and alleyways, which if you've ever been to the UK, still pretty true.
Mm-hmm.
Cobblestone roads, and like a lot of them aren't lit at night. which is still the case. Some of them are creepy and dark, and it's like, cool, don't go down there. You will get assaulted. And so if it's that bad now, back then, people running on candlelight, so yeah. there's a lot of darkness in the night that can lead to some unfortunate killings.
That is completely true.
And I also wanted to ask you, Caitlin, what of the rumors that happened a few years ago? Like, wasn't it in 2020 somebody said that they had caught the killer finally?
So this is the thing. Rumors like this pop up every couple months, I would say, where they're like, oh, mystery solved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. So they'll claim that there's partial DNA evidence that might have been found.
Mm-hmm.
The one that Jamie's talking about was one of the suspects that we talked about. I think it was Kuzminski, potentially. Mm-hmm. They claimed that there was potentially his mitochondrial DNA found on Catherine's body. There's no way of us...
How are you going to prove that 200 years later?
Exactly. You can't. So that's why all of the articles that will say mystery solved, if you actually read the article, it'll say, oh, well, there's no way of knowing for sure, but they think maybe.
So easy
and then you have to be like, yeah. It's a lot of clickbait titles. And don't get me wrong, I would love for the mystery to be solved. I would love for us to have a way...
What?
Scared the shit out of me. I would love for us to have a way to know these things.
Mm-hmm.
But we just don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people need to come to terms with.
And I'll just say, like, as much as we want that kind of stuff to be solved, things that happened 100 years ago, we should also focus on the crimes that happen now and solving them.
Yeah.
Because the families are still alive and are suffering, and who need the support now.
Absolutely.
And that's all I'll say. I think I'm...
Yeah, I think,
done.
Like you said, I think cold cases are very important to look at, but there's a lot of people who need that effort put into their cases. And I think that's true in the true crime community more so than it is for the police.
Yeah.
I think people, I mean, even look at us now talking about Jack the Ripper. People get caught up in this fantasy of old crimes as if it's just a story, as if it's not real people, and they kind of forget that there's cases now that aren't getting the attention they deserve. We talked about how people in the community in 1888 were ignoring the murders because it was people that they didn't know. Mm-hmm. It was people in the lower income areas, people that they didn't deem worthy enough to care about.
Mm-hmm.
And we act like that's different from right now.
Yeah. I mean, let's also look at the example of the Luca Magnotta case. As true crime junkies and stuff, that community really helped. They helped catch the guy.
They wouldn't have caught him if it weren't for them.
Exactly. So, like, if we actually, all of us, a million people put their brains
at least,
on a couple cases and work together, we could actually be a source of help and information to police sources.
Yeah.
Not like what they did in 1888.
Not sending police weird kidneys, okay? We don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had. So, Jack the Ripper is still a fascinating story. A fascinating...
I hope you learned something new
I hope
today.
you learned something. I hope the families of these women were treated with some level of respect.
I hope they were able to move on and find peace in their life.
Yeah.
Despite having something terrible happen.
Exactly. I hope those women have found peace wherever they may be now. I hope whoever Jack the Ripper is has not.
He's in the underworld suffering.
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Anyway, that is
Or he's
it
roaming
for-
around London being like, why is everyone still talking about me under the wrong name?
Yeah, you guys.
That's
I wore a
his
leather apron.
That's his eternal purgatory. Being notorious, but not with his name.
Good.
That
You know
is
what?
good.
Actually, I'm going to jump on my soapbox real quick because I think
Boing.
that's a good point. I think he deserves that.
Yeah.
I think he enjoyed toying with the police and playing with them and treating these women like shit. And I hope, as much as I would love to know who he was, I hope he never gets the recognition for it.
Yeah.
'Cause he can suck a dick.
Yeah. And I think we're there. We're done.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your opinions. Who do you think did it? Why?
Yeah.
Why not? You can get in touch with us. You can send us an email at creepsandcoffee@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at creepsandcoffee. You can help fuel our caffeine-induced recording sessions by supporting our show at buymeacoffee.com/creepsandcoffee. You can give us a hug.
Kiss.
A little kiss. But we will we'll chat with you next time with a less history-filled, well, still some history.
Never.
All right. Have a good week.
Love you,
Goodbye.
bye.
I love you. Goodbye.
I don't know why I'm waving in my phone.
Creeps and Coffee is produced and edited by us, Kate and James.
Our theme music is Stuck in a Hole by Dated.
For more information on where to find them, check out the link in our show notes. And to connect with us, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Creeps and Coffee.